You know the law.
This is Thunderdome. Shoot him.
Welcome to the Mad Max Minute, where Bang Bang Maxwell's silver hammer is about to come down on Blaster's head in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, 1 minute at a time. I'm Rick.
And I'm Julia.
And today we're talking about minute 36, which begins with Max blowing his whistle, and it ends with shouting from the peanut gallery. Here to help us talk about selectively choosing to follow the no-kill rule are Niall, McGowan, and John Parker from the Bat Minute 89 podcast.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Hopefully we will be more effective than Gordon is in our movie. As podcast guests.
Yeah. We're here all the way from Gotham City, where I can tell you, we don't need another hero. All right? So.
You don't need to know the way home?
Oh. Well, I mean, it helps, but I guess I don't need to. I'll find it eventually.
You can be satisfied with life beyond Thunderdome, I guess. So.
Beyond Thunderdome, is that where he goes out and meets the kids? No, I'm not satisfied with that whole segment.
You really seem to hate that part.
I hate the kids. All right?
I'm going to say it now because it's our last minute, right? I like the whole film. I think it's just that part doesn't fit with Mad Max. I think it's a good movie. It's just that it doesn't feel like part of the same series.
Yeah.
It feels like two separate movies.
Yes, yeah.
And if they had split it into two separate movies, I think each movie could have been a good movie by itself. But they chose to make it one, which is a little odd.
Very odd.
But I like the kids. I think they're very interesting.
They always seem to screw up sequels like this back then, though. They have a successful one and then kind of have too many ideas for the third one. That seems to be a common thing in the 80s.
Okay.
I just have a thing against gangs of kids in films in general. They've never sat well with me.
Just
Hook,
kids.
Yeah, it's I don't like Hook. Don't like the Lost Boys and Hook. It's no, just cut me out of that. Just anything so many kids films Newsies and things like this. Where I'm no, I'm out, man, I'm out. Even there was a Batman animated series which I love, and I think there's an episode. Was it the Underdwellers or something? And it's Batman finds that there's a gang of forgotten runaways who have been ruled. And it's bunch of kids don't care. Just I'm out, man. So yeah, I've just got an inherent thing of just you put a bunch of kids. Other thing I hate is when they bring in choirs of children into pop songs and stuff, in Another Brick in the Wall and stuff. I've just got a thing against mass groups of kids. Apparently, I don't know what it is. Yeah, maybe because I just wasn't popular in school and I just hate that. It reminds me too much of that. But for some reason, yeah, I'm out. I'm out of all that. So
Niall, never move next to a school. If you can help it, never move next to a school. I don't want to think about
roving gangs of children.
I can sympathize. I was sitting here this morning before we started recording, and there was a group of 6, 7, maybe 8, I'm assuming middle school aged young women walking around the neighborhood, around our cul-de-sac here. And I'm sitting up here in my office looking out the window, and the first thing I thought is, what are those dang kids doing in my cul-de-sac?
Never mind, they probably live here.
Oh, they probably do. They're probably here having a sleepover or whatever kids do these days. Probably
these days, yeah.
Eating Tide Pods and snorting condoms.
I do really hope, though, you were standing looking at them while, twitching your curtains and just, the one eyeball peering out. Those kids.
Get off my lawn.
I'm glad I'm not alone, then, because I'm the same.
Also, no, as soon as I see kids coming towards me in the street, I have a little bit of oh god, just even have to coordinate my way past them. It's they could say something annoying or something. I'm a very grumpy person, as you may be learning about me now. People, the revelation about how grumpy a person I am.
Well, and you hating choirs of kids. I'm the same because I one of my favorite bands, The Clash. I love their album Sandinista. Some people don't like it because it's insanely long. Loads of mad experiments on it, weird music. But one of the worst things, because I love almost every track, but one of the worst things near the end, I think, they have a choir of children cover one of their songs from their debut album, Career Opportunities. I think it's meant to be cute. It's these kids singing about being unable to get work. It's that's going to be their future. That's sad, isn't it? It's yeah, but I don't want to hear kids. Just get rid of it.
Yeah.
There's no need. There's no need.
I think it's because like school choirs are like inherently they all kind of. I'm sure like some people tell me that like no, there are ones that are genuinely great and stuff, but like when you just I'm from a town that didn't have a great school choir, and anyone I've ever seen all sounds the same, and it's always like people are just humoring these children because they like pretend that they can sing okay when none of them can. Like maybe you might get one or two in the bunch who are like, oh, they could sing and go on to it, but usually it's just like if you can get them to harmonize in any way possible, it sounds acceptable. And from that, it's just I've taken this off on a weird tangent of just it makes me sound like I'm a proper wizened old man. Just
yeah, you sound awful.
This line of conversation is making me so happy because I do not like kids either. When we were talking about the making of this movie, like the pre-planning process, we were talking about how George Miller and Terry Hayes went out to lunch, and Terry Hayes had this script idea for the story of The Waiting Ones. And so George Miller was like, I think we can wrap that up in a Mad Max story and get it out there easier. And I have to wonder if they had released Terry Hayes' script as sort of like an anthology to the Mad Max series.
Ooh.
You know how like the Halloween movie started off with Michael Myers and then...
Oh, and like with Season of the Witch, they tried to like, no, it's a completely different movie now, yeah.
Yeah, it was the third one in the series where they did Season of the Witch. And I'm willing to bet that the reason they did not spin out Terry Hayes' idea into an anthology movie is because they saw what the Halloween series had done. 2 movies starring their villain Michael Myers and then a third movie anthology somewhere else. And they said, oh no, we can't do that. That would be awful. We got to keep Max in it.
It's a shame that happened to Halloween, actually, because I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Like, the third one wasn't amazing or anything, but it's a really cool idea, and you're seeing it now with like American Horror Story. Each season's different. It's that kind of thing, and you could have easily had that with Mad Max. You could have done other stories in that world.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm a staunch defender of Season of the Witch, though. Like I really love that movie.
There are a lot of people that really like that movie.
Yeah, there's huge segments of it that do drag, but like the highs of it, I think, are really, really high. Like it's like the ending scene is like one of the best ending scenes of any horror film I can recall. And even when I tell people about it, I'm like, oh, this is what happens, and they go like, oh, that does sound pretty cool. I'm like, oh, it's a great movie. It's definitely worth watching. It's better than some of the other Halloween sequels, I can tell you that. But
That's not hard.
Now, just to make sure everyone is on the same page, we are not talking about the 2011 Nick Cage movie. We're talking about the third Halloween movie.
But we can. I'm happy to talk about it.
We'll do a bonus episode for you about that.
I love Ron Perlman as much as the next guy, but yeah, no. Getting back on track, though. We join Max. He is in the Thunderdome. He has gotten his hands on that whistle. He has started blowing it, and he continues blowing it as he rises to his feet at the beginning of this minute. And the first thing he does is he goes over and he grabs the mallet that Blaster has just dropped. Now, I can understand going for this weapon, which is relatively close to Blaster, and using it just because of convenience. I have a feeling that if Max wanted to end this fight faster, he probably could have found elsewhere in the dome something a bit better suited to straight up murder, like the Guandao, the long-handled machete weapon thing.
When was the last time we saw that? Where is it?
The last time we saw it, Blaster was using it to swipe at Max as he was hanging from the top of the dome. I don't know where it went after that, though.
So it's probably just on the ground somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I suppose he hasn't really got the time to go and get that. Like, in the heat of battle, you probably would just panic and go, right, grab this, swing it. And I think when he swings it as well, this might just be me, but even though it's a different weapon, all I can see is Mel in Braveheart. Like there's 2 phases of Mel Gibson. This is the new Mel. He's transformed into the modern Mel here, like visually. I don't know what it is. He becomes like a different person. It's really strange.
It's the hair.
The hair's definitely part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the very model of a modern Mel Gibson.
Yes.
The patter doesn't really work with that one, but you get the idea.
It works. He basically becomes American as well. He's not Australian anymore now. This is the transformation.
I did actually try like looking up because I know this is a wig he's wearing in these scenes, right? Because you do see him with shorter hair later in the movie, so I'm assuming it's a wig, unless they stacked the deck, or like, record all these bits first and then. But because I thought it was a mane of hair only rivaled by Kim Basinger in our movie as Vicky Vale, 1989's Batman.
Beautiful mane.
And I actually started looking and was like, is Mel Gibson's hairdresser on this? Because we covered Kim Basinger's hairdresser in the end credits of that movie, Rick Provenzano, who's disappeared without a trace, and we, presumed dead by us. Cause no one else is presuming him dead, but we are.
Caught up in the whirlwind industry of Hollywood hairdressing.
Well, the thing is, he was also Alec Baldwin's hairdresser, and he was working with both of them throughout the marriage. And then once that marriage ended, what happened to Rick Provenzano? Maybe he just...
Oh, he probably got given to one of them in the divorce settlement.
Presumably. And then
he was one of the assets that got passed along.
But I think he's worked since like 97 though. I think that was the real like, oh, maybe something happened to him. And that was like, he couldn't have possibly just retired and was living a nice happy life. Something must have happened to him.
Right. No one ever gets to retire happily.
But no, I couldn't find Mel Gibson's hairstylist. I was a bit disappointed by that, unfortunately. I was like, And then I guess I go like, I suppose in this one he doesn't need beyond like the maintenance of this magnificent hair here. But then again, I'm fairly certain that must be a wig. And then when he's got it cut, it doesn't really matter what his hair's like. Then it's supposed to be out in the the sticks basically. So the worse it looks, the better, really.
Right.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that Max grabs the hammer and immediately starts going for the head. Because Blaster is not wearing a shirt in the traditional nomenclature of upper body wear. He's wearing straps. And so Max, if he takes this hammer and starts wailing on Blaster's chest...
You could crush his chest.
Yeah, crack some ribs, pierce some lungs.
Yeah, why does he go for the one place that's armored?
I think I'll defend this again in... Well, I say defend. It goes back to, my feeling like Max isn't... he's a survivor. He's a scavenger. He can get by, but he's not like a... that skilled a fighter. Like he got through the test up with, when he met Aunty and whatnot. But that's just because potentially those guys were complete idiots as well.
Yeah.
But I think like the reason he reaches for the sledgehammer is just out of like desperation. Like I need some kind of weapon. Here, this thing it's right here. And then his whole thing is that previous in Thunderdome, every other thing he's attempted hasn't worked, and he's just looking to end this as fast as he possibly can. So it's just like, if I fully swing this thing into his head, how's his head? It's bound to do some damage, and he gets a couple of really good shots in. And like most people, you think like this would kill them even with the helmet on. Like you'd be able to penetrate it somehow. So I think, again, it's all out of sheer just Max panicking, desperation, and, he's not going for the chest or anything because he's just like, oh, just go for his head, go for his head, go for his head. Like, just basically trying to survive out of sheer just like, I need to finish this right now. That's why he's just like fully swinging into the helmet.
In all the times that we've seen Max in a medical setting, this is going back to the very first movie, he never hangs out. He never tries to learn much on screen about human anatomy. And so he probably is just going by zombie movie rules, destroy the head, kill the brain, and you take care of everything. And that's why he's focusing so heavily on the brain. He's not thinking because he's in a life or death fight, like you were saying. Oh, all I need to do is destroy his ability to breathe and I will win. Yeah. Plus, you can't deny that there is a huge thing about to happen that is going to completely alter the end of this fight that needs to happen. So he needs to wail on this helmet.
It's coming.
As Max is swinging this hammer around, he just keeps hitting Blaster on either side, and Master, sitting up in Auntie's viewing platform, is visibly concerned. He is not feeling good about his chances at this point.
It's like, some of these shots as well you see of Auntie and Master and the Collector. It's like, Master for one thing. Like this was the first time I ever looked into him as an actor, and I had no idea. Like I know you guys will have covered it, but like how far back he goes, because he was in like Freaks and stuff. I was like, holy crap! Like that's a real like near the beginning of cinema classic, and he was in that. And I was like, holy! I didn't realize he was that old.
Yeah, in this movie, he's in his 70s, right?
Oh my god!
Yes.
And once again, because it's it's the way of Batman in '89, I do have an Everything's Connected because he was also in the Trip, which is a movie starring Peter Fonda, and it was written by Jack Nicholson, who of course plays the Joker in Batman. So
Really?
there you go.
Wow,
Hey.
nice.
It was during Jack's brief period before he became, Jack Nicholson. He was butting around with Roger Corman for years and getting little tiny drips and drab bit parts and stuff. And he did turn his hand for a bit to being a writer, and he wrote Head, the Monkeys movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, apparently the only reason he called it Head was because he wanted the sequel poster to read "From the guys who gave you head," and that was. And yeah, apparently he wrote The Trip, which is like it's a pre-Easy Rider, Dennis Hopper, Peter Fonda movie that's it's just all about like a psychedelic drug trip. But yeah, what's his name? Angelo Rosito. He's in that movie. And so there you go. He's connected directly to Batman in that way. So
There you go.
Nice.
although I was convinced, when I was going through his IMDb, it's like he's bound to have been in the 1966 Batman show. That just seems like they would have had like little people henchmen or something. That just strikes me as something the show would have done. But apparently they did not. At least he wasn't one of them if they ever did. So
This is going to sound like a awful suggestion, but if they had wanted to bring in the ventriloquist villain from Batman the Animated Series into the Batman 1966 TV show, they could have just had Angelo Rosito with like some lines painted on his face.
yeah.
Because the ventriloquist, it's all about the doll. It's all about the Scarface doll. So you just have Angelo Rosito there getting carried around, being like, I'm going to shoot you, see? 'Cause I'm a gangster. Yeah.
But I don't know, for some reason that really reminded me of, I once saw a live act with, Kristen Shaw, the lady who's in loads of stuff, and then Fly to the Conchords and Gravity Falls and stuff. But like, she used to do a double act with a fella, and I remember one of the things was like he would come out as a ventriloquist, and she'd be on his knee as the ventriloquist dummy, and she was just like sort of like.
I think we've seen that.
Yeah, and then they bring up people from the audience and just pretend like, oh, this is like a normal ventriloquist dummy thing. And then as soon as like the ventriloquist was distracted, she'd go like, hey, I'm not really a puppet. I'm a real person. You've got to help me. And all this. And it turned like really weird and creepy for a bit. Anyhow.
Yeah, it's funny. Round about second 10, where Max has started to really land some solid hits on Blaster's helmet, and we get to see Aunty looking on. I noticed that Max stops blowing the whistle, and Blaster is still reeling. And so I've got to wonder, as bad as those whistle blows are to Blaster inside of his helmet, the clanging of the mallet hitting his helmet must be so much worse.
Oh, yeah, like it would just vibrate through your skull.
Which proves the point that Max didn't need the whistle.
Like, all he needed to do was find an opening.
Yeah.
I suppose that created the opening.
It did create the opening, which is kind of an argument to make in favor of the whistle, that it's not a weapon.
No.
It created an opportunity, but the whistle was still cheating.
Yeah, no, it still is. It still is. That was not part of the arrangement of the Thunderdome. Although I'd like to see someone use those earrings we mentioned last minute, or whatever, the headband / earring as a weapon. You could really beat someone to death with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little bits there. You could probably lacerate someone.
Yeah, like what's going to turn into like, she can unspool it into like a piano wire-esque sort of throttling device of some sort.
Rot someone, yeah.
And I love her face, because she seems to now be really enjoying like just the violence. I think or maybe she just appreciates that she's found someone who can finally win. You know,
Just so smug.
yeah, it's smug, and I get there's like a Palpatine vibe to me. You know, like a good use your aggressive feelings.
I will say too,
yeah.
some of these shots of the collector, you can see from the light backlighting him. I've never really noticed, because I was assuming like, he's completely bald. But you see like, no, he's got like strands of hair like poking out. It's like, dude, just cut him off. What are you doing?
He has the worst hair in this whole movie. It's so gross.
It's so perfect
Just
for the character. though.
Commit to being bald. It's fine. Being bald is fine. Just don't be in between.
Yeah, that's why I've shaved my head. It was starting, and I was like, no, look, just call it a day already. It's better.
I've seen people cling on in real life though. Like, I remember seeing, because my dad was in like he was in a rock band in the 60s, so like we still get like these Neil Young looking guys showing up my dad's house like, how's it on? And all, guys stinking of weed and stuff. But like I've seen some of them with like completely domed topped heads, but down to their shoulders at the sides.
Like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, and then like at the front they'll have like where the widow's peak is, like one like strand of hair coming down.
Gross.
I was like,
No.
what are you doing?
This is so bad.
Yeah. But you don't want to say anything. It's just like what? That's what we call him as well. The guy did Galway Girl, Steve Earle, who was in like The Wire and stuff. You look up a picture of Steve Earle. That's a guy. It's like what's he doing? He really needs to accept going bald because it's just this long haircut of this random bald patches everywhere and stuff. It's like, oh my god, dude, come on, get it.
But again, these horrible strands of hair really suit this character. It's absolutely perfect for this guy. He's just horrid.
Yeah.
Right. He's more or less the Goblin King from the Hobbit movies.
Yes. Yeah.
If you're talking, about like an actual person playing, a puppet in with the ventriloquist there, he strikes me as if they ever did, Krang in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back then, he could have been the body of Krang. Yeah. Like he looks like that thing.
Yeah.
Put like a sunglasses on him and then somehow animate Krang coming out in his stomach. That's the same exact thing.
I could just do with more Krang in general.
Yeah.
That was my whole reason I liked that last movie. It was like, oh, Krang's in it.
Yeah.
Like they finally put him in a movie. There he is. He's finally here. Doesn't matter the rest of it's terrible, but
Speaking of giant guys who stomp around and are big, Blaster is taking just a big old beating and he falls to the ground. He's knocked back into a seating position and Blaster is more or less exposed at this point, which gives Max a great opening. He comes in, swings, connects with the bottom of the front of Blaster's helmet, and the helmet lets go of the collar and flies through the air like a ball at a sporting event through the air and then just lands on the dirt. And Aunty and the Collector, they jump up and they're all shocked at what they're seeing. They look on unexpectedly and the crowd just goes crazy and they start chanting.
Do you think that when they saw the helmet flying off that they thought the head might be inside the helmet, a la Jango Fett?
yeah.
Yes.
I bet there were a lot of people hoping exactly that.
Yeah.
Sitting on the opposite side of the dome.
Well, watching this minute, I thought that. Like,
Yeah, the way they show it to us implies that might have happened.
Yeah, because you look at Blaster and it's like, oh, that must be his head.
Yeah.
yeah. Like, I haven't watched this one in about 4 or 5 years, so I'd forgotten. And when I was watching the clips that you sent me, I jumped out my seat. I was like, "Oh my god, this is extreme!" I was really excited. Then I realized, it's not quite Django.
Yeah.
Nope, it's not quite Mortal Kombat. This is not a fatality.
Finish
Would have been weird though to see like a Django and Boba Fett-esque scene of like Master like in silhouette holding the helmet, and it was like much like everyone was doing in Attack of the Clones, going like, "Is the head going to drop out of the helmet?" Because that seems like that's what would happen.
As the crowd is chanting, Max is gathering his strength. He's kind of leaning on the mallet for support, but then he gathers himself, picks up the mallet, and he raises it above his head, and he starts advancing on Blaster. And the camera, we're in Max's POV, it advances up on Blaster, who's just lying on his back and his hands up in front of his face. And Max gets ready to let the mallet fall, and then Blaster moves his hand aside to reveal just a face. Just someone that very obviously has a intellectual deficiency, and it gives Max pause.
Yeah, this is like, obviously you can take it on a simple way is that he didn't realize that this was who he was up against, and he's just like, oh, I can't. This is obviously someone who's didn't realize what they were doing, so I can't kill them. That's what steadies his hand. But I came across it on Google. Apparently, there's major debates about what exactly this is supposed to mean. Because there's people apparently are convinced that this is supposed to be, it's the farmhand from Mad Max 1.
Yeah, Benno.
Yeah, and people are like, no, it's him. And then like other people are like, no, I think it's just coincidentally it's another sort of similar kind of person, but I don't think it's supposed to be literally that same character.
Yes.
But and again, with the continuity of the Mad Max films, would it even make sense if it was the same person? Because you don't even know if this is the same Max, frankly, a lot of the time.
Well, Benno,
that's interesting.
the large man from the first movie, was played by Max Fairchild. who was neurotypical. He was an actor. He was in a bunch of different things, and he was just playing up a developmental disorder in that first movie just to play up the character. And he's actually one of the victims tied to the front of the Humongous machine in the second movie.
Wow.
And he went on to star in a bunch of different shows. The role of Blaster was played under the mask by a guy named Paul Larson, who was just a huge guy who did legitimately have Down syndrome.
Okay.
There is, according to IMDb, and this is something that both Julie and I have been trying to confirm, like there's a different face underneath the helmet, and that's the face of Stephen Hayes. Now, Stephen Hayes was uncredited in the final credits for the movie. He's just under the special thanks section. But if you go on Stephen Hayes' IMDb page, he's listed as also being a character in 1984's The Eureka Stockade, which is a TV miniseries about the gold miner rebellion from 1854. Where, as usual, it was about the English taxing something.
As we do.
You English. You English.
In this case, it was mining licenses and the colonists rising up against it. So, way to go, John's ancestors.
I will say, John, you know what I like about you English?
Getting all of you.
Octopussy. I must have seen that movie twice.
Oh, yes.
Just had to throw in the deep cut Simpsons reference there.
But in that miniseries, Stephen Hayes plays a character who is also developmentally disabled.
Oh.
I don't know if it's specifically Down syndrome, because yes, one of those actors did legitimately have that disorder. The other one, I'm not sure.
Well, the person who we see his face, which I believe is Stephen Hayes, correct?
Right.
He has the face of Down syndrome. There are specific facial markers that come along with Down syndrome, like close set, shallow eyes, rounded features.
Yeah. So I went on ndss.org, which is the National Down Syndrome Society, and they have a page all about what is Down syndrome. So Down syndrome is a chromosomal disorder because every cell in the human body has a nucleus where the genetic material is stored in genes. The genes carry the codes responsible for all of our inherited traits and are grouped along rod-like structures called chromosomes. Typically, the nucleus of each cell contains 23 pairs of chromosomes, half of which are inherited from each parent. Down syndrome occurs when an individual has a full or partial extra copy of chromosome 21. There's just too much genetic material there. That additional genetic material alters the course of development and causes the characteristics typically associated with Down syndrome. Not every Down syndrome person has the same individual characteristics. It varies from person to person, but you do see a lot of them cropping up in a lot of different people. As far as commonality is concerned, the CDC here in America report that approximately 1 in every 700 babies in the US is born with Down syndrome, making Down syndrome the most common chromosomal condition. About 6,000 babies with Down syndrome are born in the US each year. Now, as far as the discovery of the disorder, it's always pretty much been there. It just didn't actually get published about until 1866 by John Langdon Down, who was an English physician. He published his description of a person with Down syndrome, and it was from there that the syndrome earned the name of the guy who published it, which is why we call it Down syndrome.
It's actually Down's syndrome, like possessive.
Yeah. So when someone says Down syndrome, it's not multiple instances of the word down. It's down apostrophe S.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Other people had previously recognized the characteristics of the syndrome. It was just Down who put it all together and published it. And then in 1959, the French physician Jérôme Lejeune identified Down syndrome as a chromosomal condition. Like, he's the one that actually looked at the cells and said, oh, hey, look at these chromosomes here.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. That's great. I've learned something.
We try to be educational from time to time.
So a lot of people will be thinking about some of those tangents that we went on. It's like, really?
I like the message here as well because, you know, as you say, we see his face and Max pauses and he realizes it's not his fault, basically. You know, he's been made to be this way. Max is like a dialectical materialist. He's analyzing the situation, nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
He believes in nurture. This guy's been told to do this, made to do this. He kind of doesn't understand what he's doing.
Max is definitely recognizing that this person that he's been fighting has no real malice in their heart or true desire to murder him, and he's probably being reminded of Benno.
Yeah, I think his experience with Benno helps him to understand that Blaster is innocent.
Yeah.
Although, again, in that same forum I was on, some people were bringing up, like, oh, is this Benno? Some other people are going on, like, someone for some reason thought that it was supposed to be Humongous, which was...
What?
Well, they were like, oh, this is, after he survived, and this is Max recognizing him. And I was like, well, one, didn't he have on the thing the whole time? How would he recognize him? And like, everything about this was just like, what? What the hell are you talking? And like, all the comments beneath were just like, I'm pretty sure Humongous is dead.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
He took a truck to the face. I mean, no hockey mask is going to protect you from that.
No, that'd be one hell of a hockey mask if it did.
But that's just the way of internet forums, though. Of just you're gonna come into some people who are just like, no, man, I don't know what way you're thinking, but your view is very, very much askew right there.
All of the spectators in Thunderdome are chanting, kill him, kill him. And we get a couple of real good shots of people just being really enthusiastic, but Max is just frozen. So I'm wondering, like, is it him being reminded of someone that he knew? Is it him recognizing Blaster as having a mental condition? Like, why is Max hesitating here?
Oh, I think he genuinely recognizes this as like as someone with a condition. So he does recognize him like, oh well, he's obviously not in a mental state for him to be actually pursuing me, trying to kill me. He doesn't seem to. He assumes like, no, there's no way he was maliciously doing this, and it's just a sort of shock of it. I think it'll be a mixture of the shock of seeing this and then realizing, oh no, there's no way, and then of course this is exacerbated by. Later in the minutes, Blaster's smiling at him, which is obviously not something he would do if if he was trying to maliciously murder him.
Right.
So I think it all sort of couples up as being like, oh no, this is he's obviously been forced into the ring here, and he probably didn't realize how much damage he was doing to people and things like that. So I think it comes back to the basic like, oh, Max at the end of the day is a good guy, so he's not gonna just cave in the head of anyone, unless he really, really has to. So
I do like the way they drag out the hesitation, though. It's not an instant no, because I think in the built-up fury in Max from what he was just fighting, he's still kind of in his mind weighing it up, like, do I kill him?
Yeah.
I mean, it's still, there's a little bit there, like, he's realizing he can't, but it's, it's kind of tense. There's a tense moment there where it could happen. Yeah. You never know.
It's good, too, because it gives, like, the audience a moment to kind of register everything that's going on. So they can you can almost momentarily place yourself in his shoes of being like, well, what would you do? Would you, like, if you were in this position, would you, this guy's been trying to kill you for, like, 10 minutes here.
Yeah.
But you've discovered this. What would your own reaction to it be? And sort of lets it settle in for like a couple of seconds before his own Max decides to make his own choice.
I am also interested in the crowd. They are chanting kill him. So do they not realize or not recognize the physical signs of a mental disability, or do they not care?
I don't think they care.
They want to
They
see,
just want blood.
Yeah, they want to see somebody die. They are in Thunderdome. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. That is the end of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So they don't care if he's innocent or not.
We'll say extra props to the bearded guy with the eye patch, because he is. That's an extra who is going for it right there.
Giving it his all. I imagine that Max hesitates because he's been fighting this gigantic, faceless Hulk. This person that has flesh, but they also don't appear human because they're just covered in all of these pieces of armor. And when he goes down to smash Blaster in the face with that hammer and he sees childlike eyes, it shocks him because he didn't expect to see that. I imagine that he half expected to see Arnold Schwarzenegger from the Terminator movie with half of his face missing and a giant red glowing eye.
Yeah.
Or something like that. He expected to be fighting a monster. He didn't realize he was fighting a child.
Yeah.
See, I thought they were going for a similar thing in The Last Jedi, right? I won't go too much into this because it's controversial, obviously. But I liked the movie, but I think with Phasma they were going for that type of thing where they, the mask gets smashed, oh, you see her eye, you just realize it's just a normal woman. But I was always under the impression it was a normal woman. I didn't really, it didn't work as well as it's working here in Mad Max.
I don't think it would have worked because that's the first time anything like that has occurred to me. I was always under the assumption like, well, everyone knows it's Gwendolyn Christie, so yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. But I think you were meant to be shocked.
Yeah.
Like Max is shocked here.
Yeah, I like the idea. I think Phasma just didn't act like enough of a monster
Yeah.
for us to doubt her humanity.
Yeah.
We were shown her humanity and we were like, well, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
We know she's only human.
It's, in minutes where we've been talking a lot about Django and Boba Fett as well. Like Phasma just has a bit of the Boba Fett thing about her of been like really cool looking character that they've not utilized well. Like everyone wanted more Phasma, and you just didn't really get it. It just like unless she comes back again, which may well happen because until you see a body, then everyone's still alive technically. But it's just that same thing. Some people could argue like, well, maybe it's a tribute to Boba Fett by having a cool looking character that you've essentially wasted. I'm like, that's not a good tribute. That's not a tribute anyone wants.
But it's done to great success here in this movie that we get to know this monster type character as a monster. He has no individuality. He's not even his own person. He shares a person with somebody else.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, at this pivotal moment of his death, we see that he is just an individual.
Going back to the Krang idea, it's like discovering that Krang's robot body that he hangs out in has a personality and feelings.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be good.
You almost get the sense that should Krang be ejected from the robot body, and then the robot body is just hanging out like playing with letter blocks or something like that the Ninja Turtles would have a hard time destroying this robot because it's so simple.
The Turtles could take him in and he could be one of the crew.
He could be a walking pizza oven.
Oh my God.
Wasn't there
this
an
is
episode
perfect.
of the old Turtles
no.
cartoon where like Shredder banged his head and then he thought he was one of the Turtles or something and they took him in and he was just hanging out with them like, all right, dudes, and all that.
Oh no.
That sounds like an awful idea. So I completely
it's one of those
believe
things
it.
that's in the back of my mind.
Definitely
that happened. But I'm not checked, but I'm going to go look straight after this, I'll tell you that.
Off to the side of the Thunderdome, we can see that Jedediah and the Pig Killer are sitting there staring at this situation. And we go from them up to Auntie's booth. Like everyone is in shock of what's happening right now. But the Collector, Auntie Entity, and Iron Bar are not interested in this whole mercy thing.
Yeah.
The Collector yells out, "You know the law." Auntie yells, "This is Thunderdome." And Iron Bar, no creativity, just yells, "Kill him."
Yeah. That was shocking. This is our only dialogue of the week that we've had.
More or less.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Oh yeah.
Iron Bar does often seem to be a hanger-on.
I'm here too.
Yeah, like the Collector and Auntie are like the primary people in the society. And then there's Iron Bar.
I always love that in a movie though, where there's like a villainous character who's really, over the top. They talk a lot, and they have like a really sniveling sidekick who just pops up and goes like, "Yeah."
Yeah, exactly.
They do it in cartoons all the
It's
time.
kind of like we had in Batman with Bob. Only Bob was way cooler.
Yeah.
because everyone loved Bob, and he genuinely had your back. This guy's like anti-Bob,
Oh,
although he
anti-Bob.
looks weirdly kind of like him.
Maybe it inspired Bob.
Although I will say I do wish there was a sitcom called like and then there's Iron Bar. It'd just be like what he's up to. And he's just coming home to like the missus, and he's just like, "Oh honey, Auntie's coming around. We gotta cook a dinner." And then like all random shenanigans happen and stuff. He loses his weird headpiece thing, and like, "Oh, I can't go into work tomorrow without this. Then the boss will have my neck," and stuff like that.
I can imagine Iron Bar coming home at the end of the day, and he takes the iron bar that holds up his mask and he pulls it off and he hangs it up on a hat rack. And then before he goes out in the morning, he puts it back in his little back pack thing, whatever.
It's like every day we get something like, let me tell you, the best part of my day is when I take that iron bar out and then put my feet up and have a nice martini. That's just gets you through the day.
Sounds good to me.
So in all the years that Aunty has been running Thunderdome, do you think this has ever happened before? Someone refusing to kill the other person?
I think it has, just by the urgency of her response, because it's like they're instantly on him, like, you know the law, and then she's instantly, this is Thunderdome. Like, she's seen like, oh, people have steadied their hands before and not finished the deed, so she's really like, no, this is like, not again. Go do the thing right now. That was my feeling towards it anyway.
I thought maybe it happened in the early days and it was a disaster and the whole thing fell apart, basically. So this time, that's not happening. In this iteration of Thunderdome that's been going for however many years, that will never happen, in her mind.
It kind of reminds me of a situation from Flash Gordon, where you've got Flash and Prince Baron, and they are in the Hall of the Hawkmen, and they have to go on that little platform and fight.
Oh, yeah, the spiky platform.
Yeah.
And so as they're fighting, Prince Voltan, played by Brian Blessed, is there with the little controller, and he has the ability to pitch and yaw the platform around. He has spikes that come up. He can force one of them to die.
Yeah.
Aunty does not have that ability because this is the post-apocalypse. They don't have crazy sci-fi technology.
Although that's not crazy sci-fi technology. That would be so easy.
Yeah, you just dig a pit underneath the Thunderdome and install a trap door.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I don't think Master is all he's cracked up to be.
No?
With his inventions and technology and electricity. Like, I don't know. Aunty and the Collector seem to talk him up like he's the reason this place is more sophisticated than other places. But really all he's doing is making a few light bulbs turn on.
Right.
Hey, that's pretty impressive to these people, I suppose. They haven't really got much going for them, have they?
Right.
Right.
I want to see the Thunderdome. Like, I want him to revamp it and have, like, traps and spikes coming out of the ground and pits.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Like a BattleBots arena.
Exactly like that.
Yes.
Something like that.
The grinding wheels at the edge.
It'd be like this is John ringing up George Miller going like, I know you've got like, what, 2 completed sequel scripts the Fury Road completed? But
Yep.
what about this? Mad Max,
Right.
back to Thunderdome, all right?
I could see that legitimately happening. I think he might bring a Thunderdome into a future movie.
Yeah.
Because it's fondly remembered. I know a lot of the movie isn't, as I said, this one in particular. The other two, much more so. But this scene, everyone likes this. Everyone likes the Thunderdome.
That'd be
Yes.
like, you know,
Right.
Mad Max, back to Thunderdome, brackets, no kids this time.
But Tina Turner has to come back.
Oh my God,
totally.
yes.
I think Tina Turner is busy. There's a stage show that she's producing
Please tell me it's a Mad Max show.
in London, I want to say.
I was hoping you were going to say Las Vegas.
No, it's more of like a biography show. I think it's more or less a stage version of the movie that Angela Bassett starred in.
Like the What's Love got to do with it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing, though, because like Tina Turner's genuinely really good in this. You guys, is there any? Because she didn't really go on to do that much acting afterwards. Is there a reason that she's given in interviews that you guys have come across, or?
Not that I've found. It's definitely her biggest role, though.
Yeah, it just seems like maybe she's like, no, all I ever wanted to do was play like a grand villainess in a Mad Max movie, and I've done that. So yeah, I'm happy to go back to being a huge mega pop star.
Yeah. Tina the Musical is going to be done at the Aldwych Theatre in London. It looks like the best seats are available from £15 if you're doing the lottery. You can book tickets online.
That's cheap.
It doesn't look like it's actually running right now. It's hard to say because I'm looking at her website right now and it's like I don't know what's going on. But it's presented in association with Tina Turner. Like she's very deeply involved in it.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to have to see
So-
it now, Niall.
Right. You'll have to go and report back to us and let us know how it is.
Bonus episode.
I was worried that you're going to try to make us buy tickets on air or something. It was like, right, you guys, £15. Go on, put in your credit card details. Like,
Do you need my bank account number, my sort code? My...
yeah, just mention them on air. We'll edit it out in
Oh, yeah.
post.
Yeah. I'll definitely edit out that information. No, I wouldn't make you do that. As we get to the end of this minute, we get one final shot of Max holding the mallet. He has lowered it at this point, and from behind we hear Master yell out, "No." He is somehow gotten down from Auntie's platform and gotten into the Thunderdome. I don't think it's impossible for Master to slip through the bars of the Thunderdome. I just don't see how he's getting down from that platform on his own, but he's running up to the situation, interceding on Blaster's behalf.
I imagine it's a stage dive. I like to think he jumped off and then everyone just like, all right, pass him down, everybody.
That'd be amazing.
Much like in Wayne's World, you just see like two like heavy metal heads coming the other way, like, oh, excuse me.
Excuse me, pardon me. But that pretty much brings us to the end of the minute. We're going to get into a situation next week where we see the aftermath of this decision. But in the meantime, Niall and John, why don't you tell the nice people on the internet where they can find more of you?
Niall, I know this is normally my thing, but it's our last minute. Would you like to take it away?
The thing is, I'm so used to John doing it on our show. Whenever I'm on guest spots by myself, I'm like, oh God, what do I say?
I'll do it if you want.
Oh no, I can take the learning wheels off eventually. We are Batman at 89. We've completed looking at Tim Burton's 1989 Batman film, and we're moving on. Might have even started by now, but we'll be doing within the year 2018 at some point. Batman Returns, and as well as various hiatus projects that we'll have in between the two movies. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr and Instagram and all that. It's all under Batman at 89. So if you have a format in which you wish to view us or listen to us, because we're on all the podcatchers as well, just type in that title and we should pop up. And if we don't, find us some way and we'll provide the episodes for you somehow. I don't know.
We'll hand deliver them on a vinyl record.
Yeah. This is why John does the end thing, because it always ends up with me.
You don't want to start making too many promises. Definitely track down John and Niall. They do excellent work. They've done an amazing first season, and the best is yet to come because those Batman movies just get more ridiculous as you go on.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
You think the Mad Max series takes a weird turn by movie 3. Oh, just wait. Just wait.
We're excited, and thank you for the praise.
No. Yes. Oh, yeah. Thanks for saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just glad you came and spent some time with us. If our listeners are looking to spend more time with us this week, we are going to be off till Monday, but you can always go to our Patreon where we have our bonus show called Anarchy Road. This time around, we're doing week 12 of our coverage of the Steven Spielberg movie Hook, which you guys are so fond of.
I have no idea about this. I'll come on that to tell you what I think about Hook.
Surprise, surprise. This time around, we've got Tinkerbell trying and failing to control the Lost Boys. Rufio is going to show up and draw a line in the sand to try and divide the loyalty of the Lost Boys. And Peter is going to let a bunch of children just poke and pull at his face, and it's weird.
That's because kids, and particularly groups of kids, are assholes. So that's why that's happening.
That is a bold statement.
Mm-hmm.
It is not inaccurate.
Right. But as for us, we are going to come back on Monday. We're going to see Max start breaking rules just left and right, from refusing to kill Blaster to revealing the fact that he's working for Aunty. It's not going to end well for anyone, despite Max's protests. So you have that to look forward to. We'll see you then. The Mad Max Minute podcast is a fan project by Rick and Julia Ingham.
Mad Max franchise was created by George Miller and Byron Kennedy, is presented by Kennedy Miller Mitchell Productions, and distributed by Warner Brothers.
Mad Max Minute is produced and edited by Rick Ingham. Our opening music is Verdi's Dies Irae by Daniel Batista of danielbatista.com. And our outro music is We Don't Need Another Hero by MilitiaVox of militiavox.com.
Our home on the internet is madmaxminute.com. You can follow us on Twitter at madmaxminute, like us on Facebook by searching for Mad Max Minute, and join our Facebook listener group, Mad Max Minute Beyond Microphone.
If you'd like to support the podcast, visit madmaxminute.com, where you can check out our TeePublic storefront by clicking the store link, join our Patreon by clicking the support link, or make a one-time donation by clicking the donate link.
Thank you for joining us for minute 36 of Beyond Thunderdome. We'll see you next time.
Everybody say